Rain hammered the glass like bullets when Nadia Kessler realized the man sitting across from her wasn't just dangerous. He was the kind of danger that could erase people from existence without breaking a sweat. She'd served coffee to Wall Street sharks and tech billionaires, but Damien Seo Park made them all look like children playing dress-up. When she muttered a Korean curse under her breath, something crude about arrogant men who think the world bows at their feet, his eyes snapped to hers with the precision of a predator locking onto prey. Then he smiled. Not warm, not kind, fascinated. "Say it again," he whispered in perfect Korean, leaning close enough that she could smell expensive cologne and something darker underneath. This time while looking at me. That's when Nadia understood she'd just cursed out a man who could buy her entire life with pocket change, or destroy it just as easily. If you want to see how a broke immigrant translator survives falling into the world of Manhattan's most feared underground king, stick around until the end, and drop a like and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The coffee shop on West 34th smelled like burnt espresso and broken dreams at 6 in the morning. Nadia Kessler moved behind the counter with the mechanical efficiency of someone who'd stopped thinking about what her hands were doing months ago. Grab cup. Write name. Pull shot. Steam milk. Smile like you mean it. Repeat until your feet go numb and your soul follows. She was 24 and looked 30 on bad days. The kind of tired that lived in your bones. Ghana felt like another lifetime now. Her mother's laugh. The compound in Accra, where aunties cooked groundnut soup and kids played football in red dirt. Nadia had left all of that behind for a graduate program in linguistics at Columbia, chasing the American dream everyone warned her was just marketing. Then Mom got sick. Stage 4. Pancreatic cancer doesn't care about dreams or student visas or how hard you work to get here. It just takes and takes until there's nothing left but hospital bills printed on paper that might as well be chains. $247,000. That's what grief cost in America. Nadia wore it like a second skin now, the weight of it pressing down every time she swiped her Metro card or opened her banking app or tried to remember what it felt like to sleep without anxiety sitting on her chest like a stone. "Tall vanilla latte for Rebecca," she called out, setting the cup on the pickup counter. A woman in yoga pants grabbed it without looking up from her phone. Didn't say thank you, didn't make eye contact. Nadia had become invisible here, just another brown girl in a stained apron who existed to facilitate other people's mornings. Her shift ended at 2. Then she had exactly 90 minutes to get across town, shower in her shoebox apartment in Washington Heights, and transform into the version of herself that worked nights at Haneul, a high-end Korean-African fusion restaurant in Koreatown that charged $40 for bibimbap and $70 for jollof spiced short ribs. The tips were good. Good enough to keep the debt collectors from turning into repo men. Good enough to keep her phone on and the lights working and her dignity hanging by a thread. Barely. She clocked out at 2:07, grabbed her backpack, and stepped into October cold that cut through her jacket like spite. The subway was packed with the usual afternoon chaos. Students heading to late classes, delivery guys hauling insulated bags, tourists studying maps like they held the secrets of the universe. Nadia found a spot near the doors and pulled out her phone. 17 missed calls from a number she didn't recognize. Her stomach dropped. Debt collectors didn't call 17 times unless they were done being polite. She deleted the notifications without listening to the voicemails and shoved the phone back in her pocket. Whatever they wanted could wait until she had rent money. Or never. Never worked too. The one train lurched forward and Nadia closed her eyes, letting the rhythm of the tracks drown out everything else. Hanel occupied the ground floor of a sleek glass building on West 32nd, all black marble and soft lighting designed to make rich people feel like they were experiencing culture instead of just consuming it. Nadia arrived at 5:43, changed into the fitted black uniform that made her look more elegant than she felt, and tied her hair back tight enough to hurt. Chef Kim was already barking orders in the kitchen, his Busan accent thick enough to cut. Nadia had picked up Korean during undergrad, started with K-dramas to avoid studying, ended up fluent enough to dream in it. She also spoke Twi from her mother, Mandarin from a semester in Beijing, and enough Japanese to get by. Languages came easy. Everything else in life felt impossible. "Nadia, you're on Section 3 tonight," said Maya, the floor manager. She was Korean-American, early 30s, and had perfected the art of looking sympathetic while delivering bad news. We've got a private party coming in at 7. High rollers. Be sharp. High rollers meant good tips. Good tips meant she could maybe, possibly, pay down a fraction of the interest accumulating on her mother's medical debt, like mold in a damp basement. Got it, Nadia said. The dinner rush started slow and built like a wave. Nadia moved between tables with practiced grace, translating menu items, recommending wine pairings she'd memorized from a laminated sheet in the back, smiling until her face ached. At 7:14, the private party arrived. Nadia was refilling water glasses at table 6 when the entire restaurant seemed to inhale and hold its breath. She looked up and saw them, 8 men in suits that probably cost more than her annual rent, moving through the space like they owned it. Maybe they did. In New York, money owned everything. But it was the man at the center who made her freeze. Tall. Maybe 6'2". Korean, late 20s or early 30s, with features that looked hand-carved by someone who understood symmetry and danger in equal measure. Black hair swept back from a face that could have sold luxury watches or started wars. He wore a charcoal suit with no tie. The kind of effortless formality that screamed old money and older power. Damien Seo Park. She didn't know his name yet, but she knew the type. The kind of man who looked at the world like it was a chessboard, and everyone else was a piece he hadn't decided to move yet. Maya appeared at her elbow, voice low and urgent. That's your section. Do not screw this up. Who is he? Someone you don't ask questions about. Maya's smile was tight. Just serve the food and keep your head down. Nadia approached the table with her server smile locked in place. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Hanul. Can I start you off with drinks? Most of the men barely glanced at her, but Damien looked up and his eyes were dark enough to drown in. Not brown, black, obsidian. The kind of gaze that didn't just see you but cataloged everything about you in 3 seconds flat. Soju, he said. His voice was quiet, but absolute, the kind that didn't need volume to command attention. The Huayo 41, bring 2 bottles. His English was perfect, American accented, but there was something underneath it, something older. Of course, Nadia said. She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. You speak Korean? It wasn't a question. Nadia froze, turned back. I do. Interesting. Damien's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Curiosity, maybe. Or recognition. What else? Excuse me? What other languages do you speak? The other men at the table had gone quiet, watching this exchange like it meant something she didn't understand yet. Nadia's throat felt tight. Twi, Mandarin, some Japanese. Impressive. He leaned back in his chair, still watching her with that unnerving focus. Where did you study? This felt like a test. She didn't know the right answer. Columbia, linguistics program. Past tense? I didn't finish. Why not? The question landed like a punch. Too personal, too direct, none of his damn business. Family emergency, Nadia said, keeping her voice neutral. Professional. I'll get those drinks. She walked away before he could ask anything else, her heart hammering against her ribs for reasons she couldn't name. In the service station, she gripped the edge of the counter and breathed slowly through her nose. Maya appeared again. What did he say to you? Asked about languages. That's it? That's it. Maya looked unconvinced but didn't push. Just be careful. Men like that don't make small talk. Nadia brought the soju back on a black lacquer tray, poured the first round with steady hands, and retreated to a polite distance while they talked. She couldn't hear most of the conversation. They spoke in low tones, switching between English and Korean so fluidly it felt like code. But she caught fragments. The shipment clears customs Tuesday. Victor confirmed the route? He's handling it personally. Good. I don't trust anyone else. Normal business talk, maybe. Or maybe not. Something about the way they said it felt off, like every word had another meaning underneath. Nadia cleared plates, refilled drinks, stayed invisible. Until one of the men, younger, cocky, with gelled hair and too much cologne, reached out and grabbed her wrist as she reached for an empty glass. Hey, he said in Korean, grinning like they were friends. You're pretty. You from Seoul? Nadia pulled her hand back firmly but politely. Ghana, actually. Ghana? He laughed loud and obnoxious. You don't look African. I don't look like your business either, she said in Korean, keeping her tone light but final. Excuse me. She turned to walk away, but he wasn't done. Come on, don't be like that. I'm just being friendly. You should smile more. Something inside Nadia snapped. Maybe it was the 17 missed calls. Maybe it was the debt that never slept. Maybe it was just the lay of being treated like decoration by men who thought money made them gods. She muttered under her breath in Korean, barely audible. Jotgatsne, Shibal Namja. Fucking idiot. Goddamn man. The table went silent. Nadia's stomach dropped as she realized what she'd done. She hadn't meant to say it out loud. Definitely hadn't meant for anyone to hear, but Damien heard. His head turned slowly toward her, and for one terrible second she saw something dangerous flash across his face. Then it disappeared behind something worse. Amusement. He stood up. 6 feet 2 inches of controlled violence in a tailored suit, walked toward her. The entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Damien stopped close enough that she could see the fine weave of his shirt, smell the cedar and smoke of his cologne, feel the heat of him in the cold space between their bodies. Then he spoke in Korean, quiet and precise. Say it again. Nadia's mouth went dry. I apologize, sir. That was inappropriate. I didn't ask for an apology. His voice was silk over steel. I said say it again, this time while looking at me. Her pulse was a drum in her ears. Every instinct screamed to back down, apologize again, grovel if necessary. This man could get her fired with a word, could probably do worse. But something in his eyes, that dark, fascinated intensity, made her lift her chin instead. Jotgatsen, she repeated, meeting his gaze. Shibal Namja. Silence. Then Damien smiled. Not the polite smile of earlier. This one was real, sharp, delighted. Finally, he said in English, still looking at her like she was a puzzle he wanted to take apart. Someone with a spine. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. Heavy stock, embossed lettering. He held it out. Come see me tomorrow, 10 a.m., Park Industries Tower. Nadia didn't take the card. I work mornings. Not anymore. You can't just... Yes, I can. He pressed the card into her hand, his fingers warm against hers. 10 a.m. Don't be late. Then he walked back to his table like he hadn't just turned her world sideways. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur. The men finished their meal, paid in cash that probably equaled her monthly salary, and left without another word. The cologne guy avoided eye contact. Damien didn't look at her again, but she felt his attention anyway, like heat on her skin. Maya pulled her aside as soon as they were gone. What the hell was that? I have no idea. He gave you his card? Apparently. Nadia. Maya's voice dropped to something between fear and awe. Do you know who that was? Some rich businessman? That was Damien C.O. Park. His family owns half the commercial real estate in Koreatown. The other half they're in the process of acquiring. He runs Park Industries. So people don't just give him attitude and walk away. People who cross him tend to... Disappear isn't the right word, but they definitely stop being a problem. Nadia looked down at the card in her hand. Damien. SEO Park. CEO, Park Industries. 2-1-255-50-147. No address, just a name and a number, printed in black on cream stock, so thick it felt like armor. I'm not going, Nadia said. The hell you're not. Maya, listen to me. Maya gripped her shoulders, eyes deadly serious. I don't know what just happened, but men like that don't invite people to meetings for fun. If he wants to see you, you go. You smile. You say yes, sir, and thank you, sir, and you don't ask questions. Understand? Nadia wanted to argue, wanted to throw the card away and pretend tonight never happened. But she thought about the 17 missed calls, the $247,000 sitting on her shoulders like chains, the life she'd put on hold because America turned grief into debt and debt into prison. Yeah, she said finally. I understand. Bichets. She didn't sleep that night. Just lay in her studio apartment, staring at the water-stained ceiling, listening to her neighbor's TV through walls thin as promises. Her phone sat on the nightstand, dark and accusing. At 3 a.m., she finally gave in and Googled him. Damien Seo Park. Hundreds of hits, Forbes articles, society page photos, business profiles that used words like visionary and ruthless in the same sentence. Park Industries owned commercial properties across Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens. Warehouses, office buildings, luxury apartments, restaurants, nightclubs. The empire was legitimate on paper, but the deeper she dug, the more she found gaps. Holdings registered to shell companies, associates with criminal records, rumors that never quite became news. One article from 3 years ago caught her eye. Park Industries' heir takes control after grandfather's death. Damien Seo Park, 28, has assumed leadership of the Park family business empire following the death of founder Seo Jin Park. The elder Park, who immigrated from Seoul in 1972, built his fortune through real estate acquisitions and remains a controversial figure in New York's Korean business community. Sources close to the family suggest the transition has not been without conflict. The article continued, but the details got vague, carefully worded, the kind of vagueness that came from lawyers reading drafts. Nadia closed her laptop and stared at the card sitting on her desk. Tomorrow at 10, she could walk into whatever this was. Or she could ignore it, keep her head down, keep drowning slowly in debt until she drowned completely. At 5 a.m., she gave up on sleep, showered, and put on the only professional outfit she owned, black slacks and a white button-down she'd bought for her Columbia interviews 4 years ago. It still fit, but barely. She'd lost weight since Mom died, the kind of weight you lose when eating feels optional and grief tastes like ash. She arrived at Park Industries Tower at 9:47. The building was all glass and steel on West 38th, 60 stories of architectural intimidation that made her feel small just looking at it. The lobby was marble and chrome, sterile as a hospital and twice as cold. A receptionist with perfect makeup and a smile that didn't reach her eyes looked up. "Can I help you?" "I have a meeting with Mr. Park, 10 o'clock. "Name?" "Nadia Kessler." The woman typed something, paused, looked at Nadia with new interest that felt uncomfortable. "Take the elevator to the 60th floor. Someone will meet you." The elevator was glass on 3 sides. Nadia watched Manhattan shrink below her as she rose, the city spreading out like a map of everything she'd wanted and couldn't have. At 60 floors, the doors opened onto a reception area that looked like it cost more than her entire education. A man in a dark suit waited there, late 40s, Korean, with eyes that looked through you instead of at you. "Ms. Kessler, follow me." He led her down a hallway lined with art that probably had security alarms built into the frames, past offices with floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the city like a trophy. At the end of the hall, he opened a door and gestured her inside. "Mr. Park will be with you shortly." Then she was alone. The office was massive, corner view, Manhattan stretching in 3 directions like Damien owned it all. The furniture was minimal, a desk that looked carved from a single piece of dark wood, leather chairs, a bookshelf filled with titles in English, Korean, and what looked like Mandarin. Nadia stood in the center of the room and tried not to panic. The door opened behind her. She turned. Damien walked in wearing charcoal slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. No jacket, no tie. Somehow more intimidating without the armor of formal dress. "You came," he said. "You told me to." "Most people do what I tell them, but you're not most people, are you?" He moved to the window, looking out at the city. "Sit." Nadia sat. Damien didn't, just stood there with his back to her, hands in his pockets, silent. Finally, "Do you know why you're here?" "No. I need someone I can trust." "You don't know me." "I know enough." He turned to face her. Nadia Kessler, born in Accra, moved to New York at 19 on a student visa. Columbia Linguistics program, withdrew in your 3rd year when your mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She died 16 months ago. You're currently $247,316 in medical debt, working 2 jobs to stay barely afloat, and nobody in your life has any idea how close you are to breaking. The blood drained from Nadia's face. "How? I know everything about everyone who interests me." His voice was matter of fact, not cruel, not kind, just true. You speak 4 languages fluently. You have perfect memory for detail. You're smart enough to get into an Ivy League program and stubborn enough to survive 2 years of watching someone you love die slowly. And last night, you called my associate a fucking idiot to his face in Korean because you forgot I was listening. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Damien walked to his desk, leaned against it. It was the first honest thing I've heard in months. Everyone else is too afraid of me to tell the truth. You were too angry to care. That's useful. Nadia's hands were shaking. She clasped them together in her lap. What do you want? I want to hire you. As what? A translator, an analyst, someone who can listen to conversations in multiple languages and tell me what people are really saying underneath the words. He pulled a folder from his desk drawer, set it in front of her. 3 months. Full time. Starting salary is $15,000 a month. When the contract ends, I'll erase your mother's medical debt entirely. All of it. You walk away clean. Nadia stared at the folder like it might explode. $45,000 plus freedom from the debt that was killing her. It was too much. Too easy. What's the catch? The catch, Damien said quietly, is that you'll be working for me. And my business exists in spaces that aren't always legal. You'll hear things, see things, be part of things that might make you uncomfortable, but you'll be safe. I protect what's mine. I'm not yours. Not yet. He smiled slightly. But if you take this job, you will be. That's how it works. Nadia opened the folder. The contract was real. Typed on official letterhead, lawyer approved, dated, and waiting for her signature. $45,000. Plus the erasure of $247,316 in debt that had been strangling her for 16 months. All she had to do was work for a man who radiated danger like heat off asphalt. A man who knew everything about her. A man who looked at her like she was valuable instead of disposable. I need time to think. No, you don't. Damien's voice was soft. You need this. I'm offering you a way out. The only question is whether you're brave enough to take it. Nadia looked up at him, saw the challenge in his eyes, the certainty that she would say yes because what other choice did she have? She hated him for being right, hated herself for proving him right. Where do I sign? Bon. She started the next morning. A car picked her up at 8. Sleek black sedan with tinted windows and a driver who didn't make small talk. He drove her to a building in Long Island City, industrial and anonymous, the kind of place you'd pass without noticing. Inside, it was different, clean, professional. Open floor plan with desks and computers and people moving with purpose. It looked like any tech startup except for the way everyone stopped talking when she walked in. Damien's assistant, the same man from yesterday, led her to a private office. Windowless, secure. You'll work here, he said. Your job is to translate and analyze any communication Mr. Park provides. Audio files, written documents, intercepted messages. You'll prepare reports summarizing content, tone, and any hidden meanings you identify. Everything you see and hear is confidential. Violation of that confidentiality results in immediate termination and legal action. Understood? Yes. He handed her a laptop. Password is your employee ID number. First assignment is already uploaded. Mr. Park expects the analysis by end of day. Then he left. Nadia sat down, opened the laptop, and found a folder labeled translation_001. Inside, 3 audio files in Korean. She plugged in headphones and hit play. The first file was a phone call. 2 men discussing shipping routes. Nothing unusual until she listened closer and realized they were using code. Packages that weighed too much to be legal goods. Deliveries scheduled for 3 a.m. References to customs officials by first name only. The second file was in Mandarin. A negotiation about territory. Street corners, protection fees. Who paid whom and what happened to people who didn't pay. The third was back to Korean. This one made her skin crawl. A man's voice, cold and precise. The girl saw too much. Handle it quietly. Another voice. Consider it done. Nadia pulled off the headphones and stared at the screen. This wasn't a legitimate business. This was exactly what Maya had warned her about. Damien C.O. Park wasn't just a CEO. He was running an empire built on fear, money, and violence dressed up as commerce. And she'd just signed a contract to work for him. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "How's the first assignment going?" She knew without asking it was him. Nadia looked at the files, looked at the door, looked at the choice she'd already made. Then she started typing her analysis, because $247,000 in debt didn't care about her conscience, and neither did the man who now owned 3 months of her life. Nadia submitted her first report at 4:47 p.m. By 4:52, Damien called her directly. "You caught the double meaning in the third file," he said without preamble. No hello, no small talk, just the acknowledgement that she'd done exactly what he'd hired her to do. The phrase about handling it quietly. They weren't talking about a business problem. No, they weren't. His voice was even, unbothered, like discussing murder was just another Tuesday. "What else?" Nadia glanced at her notes. The Mandarin conversation referenced Brother Chen 3 times, each time with deference. He's not an employee, he's a partner or rival, someone with equal power. Good. Anything else? The shipping route conversation mentioned a customs official named Tommy. First name basis suggests he's on your payroll. Silence on the other end. Then, "You're better at this than I expected." Should I be flattered or terrified? Both. She heard the smile in his voice. Same time tomorrow. There'll be new files waiting. He hung up before she could respond. The driver took her home in silence. Nadia climbed the 4 flights to her apartment, locked the door behind her, and stood in the shower until the hot water ran cold. She kept thinking about the 3rd audio file. The girl who saw too much. Handle it quietly. Somewhere in New York tonight, a woman was going to die because she'd been in the wrong place at the wrong time. And Nadia had just translated the order that sealed her fate. She didn't sleep, just lay in bed staring at her phone, wondering if she should call someone. The police, the FBI, anyone. But who would believe her? She had no proof, no names, no details beyond a voice on a recording that she wasn't supposed to have heard in the first place. And even if they believed her, what then? She'd violated the confidentiality agreement. Damien would know. Men like him always knew. By morning, she'd convinced herself it was just business. The dark side of an empire she didn't understand and didn't need to understand. Her job was to translate, nothing more. She almost believed it. Week 1 became week 2. Nadia fell into a rhythm that felt surreal and mundane at the same time. Wake up. Car picks her up. Translate files. Submit reports. Go home. Repeat. The work itself was intense. Hours of audio in multiple languages, coded conversations that required her to read between syllables, documents where every comma might hide a threat. She learned to recognize voices, to catch regional accents that revealed where someone was from, to identify hesitation that meant lying and confidence that meant truth. Damien never visited the Long Island City office, but he called her every few days, always with questions that proved he'd read her reports carefully, testing her, pushing her to dig deeper. The Korean conversation from Tuesday, he said one afternoon. You noted unusual formality in the speaker's language. Yes, he used honorifics typically reserved for elders or superiors. To whom? Someone named Victor. Another pause. What's your impression of Victor based on how people talk to him? Nadia thought about it. Feared, respected, close to you in the hierarchy, maybe closer. He's my second in command. Damien's tone shifted slightly. We grew up together. He's family. You sound uncertain about that. I didn't ask for psychological analysis. You asked for my impression. That's what I'm giving you. He laughed, short and sharp. Fair enough. Keep doing what you're doing. The money hit her account every Friday. $15,000, minus taxes, direct deposit like clockwork. Nadia watched her bank balance climb from double digits to numbers that made her dizzy. For the first time in 16 months, she could breathe. She paid off 3 credit cards, sent money to her cousin in Ghana who'd helped with funeral expenses, bought groceries without calculating every dollar. Small things that felt monumental. But the debt was still there, still massive, still crushing. $247,000 didn't disappear in 2 weeks. On day 16, everything changed. Nadia arrived at the office to find a different assignment waiting. Not audio files this time. A physical package on her desk. Manila envelope, sealed, with her name written in sharp black ink. Inside, a stack of photographs. The first showed two men in conversation outside a restaurant in Flushing. One was Korean, late 50s, wearing an expensive suit. The other was younger, white, casual clothes. They weren't touching, but their body language suggested familiarity. The second photo, same two men, different location, a parking garage this time. Money changing hands. The third, the older Korean man entering a building Nadia recognized from her research. Park Industries headquarters. Her phone rang. Damien. You got the package, he said. Yes. The older man is named Jin Park, my uncle, my father's younger brother. Nadia waited. He's stealing from me. Has been for 6 months. Using Park Industries resources to run side deals, skimming profits, building his own network inside my organization. Why are you telling me this? Because I need you to prove it. There's a USB drive in the envelope. Contains recordings of phone calls between Jin and his associates, all in Korean, some in English. I need transcripts, full analysis, every detail. Nadia pulled out the USB drive. This feels different from the other assignments. It is. This is family, which makes it personal and dangerous. His voice hardened. Jin knows I'm watching him. If he finds out I have someone translating his calls, he'll come after you. So you don't tell anyone about this. Not your roommate, not your friends, not anyone. Understood? I don't have a roommate. I know. That makes you safer. A pause. But also more vulnerable. I'm assigning someone to watch your building. You won't see him, but he'll be there. You're having me followed? I'm keeping you alive. There's a difference. Nadia wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him she hadn't signed up for this level of involvement in whatever family war he was fighting, but $15,000 a month said otherwise. How long do I have? 3 days. And Nadia? His voice dropped lower. Don't disappoint me. She worked 16-hour days. The recordings were extensive. Weeks of phone calls, some lasting hours. Jin Park spoke in rapid-fire Korean mixed with English slang, jumping between topics with the ease of someone who thought he was untouchable. He talked about shipments, payoffs, territorial disputes, referenced people by nickname only, used code words that shifted meaning depending on context. But Nadia had always been good with patterns. By day 2, she'd mapped out Jin's entire operation. He was running protection rackets in Flushing and Bayside, using Park Industries trucks to move black market goods and paying off NYPD officers in 3 precincts. The amounts were staggering, hundreds of thousands of dollars flowing through accounts that should have been flagged years ago. What made it worse was how he talked about Damien. My nephew thinks he is so smart, Jin said in one recording, laughing. Building his little empire with rules and structure. He's weak. Our father would be ashamed. This business needs strength, not morality. Another call, different associate. Damien won't last, too soft, too American. When the time comes, we'll remove him and take what should have been mine from the beginning. Nadia listened to that part 3 times. Remove him. Not compete with him. Not undermine him. Remove him. Jin was planning a coup. She finished the transcripts at 2 a.m. on day 3, eyes burning and hands shaking from too much coffee and not enough sleep. The analysis ran 43 pages, detailed breakdown of Jin's network, his revenue streams, his associates, and most damning, his timeline. He was planning to move against Damien within the month. Nadia encrypted the file, uploaded it to the secure server, and sent Damien a single text. It's done. Her phone rang 30 seconds later. I'm outside your building, Damien said. Come down. It's 2 a.m. I know what time it is. Come down. She pulled on shoes and a jacket, took the stairs because the elevator sounded like a dying animal after midnight, and stepped out onto the street. A black Mercedes was parked at the corner. The back door opened. Nadia hesitated, then got in. Damien sat in the darkness, illuminated only by passing streetlights. He wore jeans and a black sweater. The most casual she'd ever seen him. It made him look younger, almost human. Tell me, he said. So she did. Walked him through everything she'd found, watching his expression shift from cold focus to something that looked like grief wearing a mask of rage. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. He's my father's brother, Damien finally said. I grew up calling him uncle. He taught me to play chess, came to my college graduation. I'm sorry. Don't be. This business doesn't care about family. He looked at her. You did good work, better than good. What are you going to do? What I have to. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope, handed it to her. Bonus for the extra hours and the risk. Nadia opened it. $10,000 in cash. This is too much. No, it's not. You just gave me evidence to dismantle a coup before it starts. That's worth considerably more than 10,000. His eyes met hers in the dim light. You could have done a surface job. Given me enough to confirm what I already suspected. Instead, you gave me everything. Why? She thought about lying, thought about saying it was just professionalism. But something about the way he looked at her, really looked like he could see past every defense, made her tell the truth. Because you trusted me with something that matters to you, and nobody's done that in a long time. Damien's expression softened slightly. You're still afraid of me. Yes. Good. Fear keeps you careful, but you're not afraid enough to do bad work. He leaned back against the seat. That's rare. So what now? Now you go back to regular assignments. The Jin situation is handled. You don't need to worry about it. Handled meaning he'll be dealt with in a way that sends the right message without starting a war. Damien's voice was flat, final. This is the part where you don't ask questions. Nadia nodded slowly. They sat in silence for a moment, the city humming around them through tinted windows. Can I ask you something? She said. Depends on the question. Why do you do this? You're rich enough to do anything, be anyone. Why run an empire built on fear? Damien was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, my grandfather started this business when he came to New York in the 70s. He was a poor immigrant who spoke broken English and got spit on by people who thought Koreans were taking their jobs. So he built power the only way he could, through fear and money, and making himself too dangerous to ignore. He paused, staring out at the dark street. He died 3 years ago and left it all to me. Not my father, not my uncle, me. Because he thought I was strong enough to keep it going. His jaw tightened, but I don't want to run it the way he did. All violence and chaos. I'm trying to build something different, something that protects people instead of destroying them. Legitimate businesses, real estate that houses immigrants instead of exploiting them, an empire that doesn't require fear to function. Does it work? Sometimes. Other times I have to remind people why they should be afraid. He looked at her. That's the balance. Power without violence is meaningless, but violence without purpose is just cruelty. Sounds exhausting. It is. A ghost of a smile. That's why I need people like you. People who see the world clearly and don't bullshit me about it. Nadia felt something shift in her chest, something dangerous and complicated. I should go, she said. Yeah. But he didn't move to open the door. Nadia? Yeah? Thank you for the work, for being honest, for not running when you saw what this really was. She met his eyes. I'm still deciding if staying was smart or stupid. Let me know when you figure it out. She got out of the car and walked back into her building, feeling his gaze on her back until the door closed. Upstairs, she locked herself in and counted the $10,000 twice, then hid it in the freezer behind frozen vegetables she never ate. Only then did she let herself think about the way Damien had looked at her, like she mattered, like she was dangerous, like maybe he was deciding the same thing she was, whether this was smart or stupid or something else entirely. The next morning, Nadia arrived at the office to find chaos. People spoke in hushed, urgent tones. Someone was crying in the bathroom. The usually calm space felt electric with tension. Damien's assistant appeared at her office door, face grim. Conference room, now! Nadia followed him down the hall to a glass-walled room where 10 people sat around a table. She recognized some faces from the office. Others were new. Damien stood at the head of the table, wearing a black suit and an expression that could freeze blood. Sit, he said. She sat. He waited until the room was completely silent before speaking. Jin Park is dead. Someone gasped. Nadia's stomach dropped. Last night around 4 a.m., he was killed in his home in Flushing, single gunshot to the head. Professional job. Made to look like a robbery, but we all know what it really was. Damien's voice was ice. The NYPD is calling it a home invasion. I'm calling it a message. From who? Someone asked. That's what we're going to find out. Damien's eyes swept the room. Jin was planning to move against me. Some of you knew that. Most didn't. What matters now is that someone else made the first move. Someone inside our organization who knew about Jin's plans and decided to eliminate him before I could. The room was silent. I didn't order this, Damien continued, which means someone acted without my authority. Someone in this room, or someone close to someone in this room, thought they were doing me a favor. They weren't. His gaze landed on a man Nadia didn't recognize. Korean, early 30s, wearing an expensive suit and a carefully neutral expression. Victor. Had to be. The way people watched him, the way Damien looked at him. Victor, Damien said quietly. Do you have something to say? Victor leaned back in his chair, completely relaxed. I had nothing to do with Jin's death, but I won't pretend to be sorry he's gone. He was a cancer. That wasn't your call to make. Then whose call was it? Yours? Victor's voice remained calm, but something sharp flickered beneath it. You've been investigating Jin for months. Had someone... His eyes flicked briefly to Nadia, translating his conversations, building a case. What were you planning to do? File a report? This isn't corporate America, Damien. This is the life your grandfather built. The life we all live. Jin was a threat. Threats get eliminated. Not without my approval. Maybe that's the problem. Victor stood up slowly. You're so busy trying to make this empire legitimate that you forgot what keeps it standing. Fear, power, the willingness to do what needs to be done. Jin understood that. Your grandfather understood that. But you? He shook his head. You're trying to be something you're not. The room held its breath. Damien's expression didn't change, but Nadia saw his hands tighten slightly at his sides. Get out, Damien said quietly. Excuse me? You heard me? Get out of this building, out of this organization. You're done. Victor laughed, cold and sharp. You can't fire me. We built this together. I'm not firing you. I'm removing you. There's a difference. Damien's voice was silk over steel. You have 24 hours to transfer all your holdings back to Park Industries. After that, anything you still control becomes hostile territory, and you know how I handle hostile territory. For the first time, Victor's composure cracked. You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was trusting you longer than I should have. Damien stepped closer. You killed Jin to force my hand, to make me look weak, to prove I can't control my own organization. But all you've proven is that you value your ego more than loyalty. Loyalty. Victor's voice rose. I've been loyal to this family since we were kids. I've bled for this empire, killed for it. While you were at Harvard learning economics, I was in the streets keeping your grandfather's legacy alive. And I appreciate that. But appreciation doesn't buy you the right to commit murder without my authority. They stared at each other, years of friendship and shared history crackling between them like broken glass. Victor smiled, slow and dangerous. Fine. You want me gone? I'm gone. But you better hope your new moral compass, he gestured vaguely at the room, keeps you alive. Because the people we deal with don't care about rules or structure or whatever fantasy you're building. They care about strength, and you just showed them weakness. He walked out. The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot. Nobody moved. Damien stood perfectly still for 3 seconds. Then he turned to the rest of the table. Meeting's over. Get back to work. People scattered like startled birds. Nadia started to leave, but Damien's voice stopped her. Not you. Stay. The room emptied until it was just the two of them in glass walls that suddenly felt too transparent. I need you to do something for me, Damien said. Okay. Victor's going to retaliate. I don't know when or how, but it's coming. He knows too much about our operations, about our people, about... He paused. About you. Cold fear trickled down Nadia's spine. What do you mean? He knows I trust you, that I've been using you for sensitive translations. That makes you a target. Damien moved to the window, looking out at the city. I'm moving you out of this office. You'll work from a secure location, different every day. My people will drive you, Stay with you. Make sure Victor can't get to you. You're putting me in protective custody? I'm keeping you alive. This wasn't part of the deal. The deal changed the moment you became valuable to me. He turned to face her. Do you understand what that means? That I'm a pawn in whatever game you're playing? That you're someone I'll protect? His voice was fierce. Victor can come after me, my businesses, my territories. But he touches you and I'll burn his entire world down. That's not a threat. That's a promise. Nadia stared at him, heart hammering. Why? Why do I matter that much? Damien crossed the space between them in 3 strides. Stood close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. Because you looked at my empire and didn't flinch. Because you did the work even when it scared you. Because you called me an arrogant bastard in Korean and then said it again when I asked. His voice dropped lower. Because when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to trust someone. The air between them felt electric. That's dangerous, Nadia whispered. I know. We barely know each other. I know everything about you. Your favorite color is blue. You take your coffee with too much sugar and no cream. You call your cousin in Ghana every Sunday, even though the time difference means you're awake at 5 a.m. You cry during sad movies, but pretend you don't. You haven't been on a date in 3 years because you were too busy taking care of your mother and then too busy drowning in debt. Should I continue? Nadia couldn't breathe. How? I told you. I know everything about everyone who interests me. He reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his hand cupped her face gently. And you interest me more than anyone has in a very long time. She should step back, should remind him this was a professional relationship, should maintain boundaries. Instead, she leaned into his touch. This is a terrible idea, she said. Probably. You're my boss. Technically true. You run a criminal empire. I'm working on that. I'm scared of you. You should be. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. But you're still here. I'm an idiot. You're brave. He leaned closer. And if I kiss you right now, are you going to punch me or kiss me back? Nadia's laugh came out shaky. I haven't decided yet. Fair enough. But he didn't move away. Neither did she. They stood there in the glass room with Manhattan watching, balanced on the edge of something that would change everything. Damien's phone rang. The spell broke. He stepped back, pulling the phone from his pocket with a muttered curse. Looked at the screen, his expression hardened. I have to take this. He pressed answer. Talk to me. Nadia watched his face shift through expressions. Concern, anger, cold calculation. When? He said. How many? Fuck. No, lock it down. Nobody in or out until I get there. 20 minutes. He hung up. What happened? Nadia asked. One of our warehouses in Red Hook was just hit. Armed crew. They took everything. Shipments worth $500,000. Victor? Has to be. The timing's too perfect. Damien was already moving toward the door. I need to go. My driver will take you to a safe house in Brooklyn. Pack enough clothes for 3 days. Don't go back to your apartment. Don't contact anyone. Just disappear until this is over. Damien. He stopped at the door, turned back. I will keep you safe, he said. No matter what it costs. You have my word. Then he was gone. Nadia stood alone in the conference room, her reflection staring back at her from glass walls. 20 minutes ago, she'd been a translator. Now she was the thing a dangerous man had promised to protect. And Victor, a man who killed without hesitation and smiled while doing it, knew exactly who she was. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She opened the text. You should have stayed invisible. Now you're just another piece on the board, and pieces get sacrificed. V. Nadia's hands shook so hard she nearly dropped the phone. Outside the window, New York glittered indifferently. And somewhere in that vast city, Victor was planning his next move. A move that would put her directly in the crossfire of a war she'd never wanted to fight. The safe house was a 4th-floor walk-up in Sunset Park, sandwiched between a bodega and a laundromat that smelled like industrial detergent and broken promises. Damien's driver, a silent brick of a man who introduced himself only as Chen, carried her single duffel bag up the stairs and swept the apartment with practiced efficiency before handing her a burner phone. Mr. Park will call you on this, Chen said. Don't use your regular phone. Don't order food. Don't open the door for anyone except me or Mr. Park. There's cash in the kitchen drawer and enough supplies for a week. How long am I supposed to stay here? Until Mr. Park says otherwise. Then he left, and Nadia was alone with peeling wallpaper and the distant sound of someone's television bleeding through thin walls. She checked the kitchen drawer. $5,000 in mixed bills, rubber-banded in stacks. The fridge held basics: eggs, bread, milk, containers of pre-made meals from a Korean deli. The freezer was empty except for ice cube trays and a handgun wrapped in plastic. Nadia stared at the weapon for a long moment before closing the freezer door. She'd crossed into a world where guns in freezers were standard precautions. The burner phone rang at 11 p.m. "You settled in?" Damien's voice sounded tired, strained, as settled as you can be in a strange apartment with a gun in the freezer. "You found that. Good. Do you know how to use it?" "No. Chen will teach you tomorrow. For now, just know it's there." Background noise filtered through the line. Voices, movement, the controlled chaos of a crisis being managed. The warehouse hit was worse than I thought. They didn't just take merchandise. They took records, shipping manifests, client lists, everything I need to run the legitimate side of operations. Can you rebuild it? Eventually. But Victor knows what he took. He's going to use it as leverage. Either I give him back his position and authority, or he releases everything to my competitors. Maybe law enforcement. What are you going to do? What I should have done months ago. His voice hardened. I'm going to dismantle his network piece by piece until there's nothing left for him to leverage. That sounds like a war. It is. A pause. I'm sorry you're caught in this. You warned me the job was dangerous. I didn't warn you it would be this dangerous, that you'd end up hiding in a safe house because my oldest friend decided you were a vulnerability worth exploiting. He exhaled slowly. If you want out, I'll arrange it. New identity, new city, clean break. You'd lose the debt forgiveness, but you'd be alive. Nadia thought about it, really thought about it. She could run, disappear, start over somewhere Victor couldn't find her. But that meant leaving Damien to fight this war alone. It meant abandoning the first person in years who'd looked at her and seen value instead of labor. I'm not running, she said. Nadia, you said you'd protect me. I'm choosing to trust that. She sat down on the worn couch, tucking her legs beneath her. Besides, you need me. I'm the only one who can translate Victor's communications once you intercept them. That's not your responsibility. You made it my responsibility when you hired me. She paused. And when you told me I mattered. Silence on the other end. Then quietly, you do matter. More than you should. Meaning I can't think clearly when I think about you in danger, and I need to think clearly right now. Something warm and terrifying bloomed in Nadia's chest. Then don't think about me. Think about Victor. Think about winning. I'll still be here when it's over. Promise me. Promise you what? That you'll be here when it's over. Nadia closed her eyes. I promise. Get some sleep. Chen will be back at 8. He hung up before she could respond. She stared at the burner phone for a long time, then set it on the coffee table and tried to sleep on a couch that smelled like other people's cigarettes. Chen taught her to shoot in the basement of an abandoned warehouse in Greenpoint. Grip firm, but not rigid, he said, adjusting her hands on the Glock 19. Stance wide, elbows slightly bent. Breathe out when you squeeze the trigger. The gun felt heavy, foreign, like holding death in her hands. I don't want to kill anyone, Nadia said. Then aim for center mass and hope they reconsider their life choices. Chen stepped back. Fire when ready. She squeezed the trigger. The recoil shocked her, sent her stumbling back a step. The bullet hit the target 2 feet to the left of where she'd aimed. Again, Chen said. She fired until her hand shook and her ears rang despite the protection. By the end of an hour, she could hit the target consistently. Not accurately, but consistently. You won't win any competitions, Chen said as they packed up, but you might survive. Inspiring. I don't do inspiration. I do survival. He handed her the gun and an extra magazine. Keep this with you, always. Victor's people are looking for you. How do you know? Because Mr. Park's people are looking for them. And we're hearing chatter, questions being asked in the wrong neighborhoods, money being offered for information. Chen's expression remained neutral, but his voice carried an edge. Victor wants you badly enough to make noise. That's dangerous. They drove back to Sunset Park in silence. Nadia spent the afternoon translating new files Damien had sent, intercepted calls between Victor and his remaining associates. The conversations were careful, coded, but she could read the desperation underneath. Victor was bleeding resources. Damien had frozen accounts, seized properties, turned allies into enemies with strategic pressure. The coup was collapsing faster than Victor had anticipated, but desperate men were dangerous men. Nadia sent her analysis to Damien with a warning. Victor's running out of options. That makes him unpredictable. His response came immediately. I know, stay alert. Chen's outside if you need anything. She looked out the window. Chen's car was parked across the street, engine off, the man himself barely visible through tinted windows. A guard dog with a concealed carry permit. The thought should have been comforting. Instead, it just reminded her how completely her life had changed in 6 weeks. Day 4 in the safe house. Nadia woke to someone pounding on the door. She grabbed the gun from under her pillow, Chen's orders, and moved to the peephole. A woman stood in the hallway. Korean, mid-30s, wearing delivery uniform and holding a bag from a local restaurant. Delivery for Kessler, the woman called. Nadia hadn't ordered food. She backed away from the door slowly, phone already in her hand. The pounding came again, harder. I know you're in there. Mr. Park sent food. Open up. Nadia texted Chen. Someone at the door claiming to have delivery from Damien. The response was instant. Don't open it. On my way up. Footsteps thundered up the stairs. The woman outside stopped knocking. Then, last chance, Nadia heard something scrape against the lock. She raised the gun with trembling hands, safety off like Chen had taught her, aimed at the door. The lock clicked. The door started to open. Nadia's finger tightened on the trigger. Chen appeared in the doorway, gun drawn, the delivery woman on her knees in the hallway with her hands zip-tied behind her back. Clear, Chen said. Nadia lowered her weapon, heart slamming against her ribs so hard it hurt. Chen dragged the woman inside and kicked the door shut. Who sent you? The woman spat on the floor, said nothing. Chen sighed, pulled out his phone, and made a call. We have a problem. Yeah, at the Sunset Park location. Victor's people. Understood. He hung up, looked at Nadia. Pack your things. We're moving you. Where? Somewhere Victor can't find you. 20 minutes later, Nadia was in a different car with a different driver heading toward Manhattan. Chen followed in a second vehicle. They took surface streets, doubled back 3 times, used routes that made no sense until Nadia realized they were checking for tails. The new safe house was in Tribeca, a luxury apartment building with doormen and security cameras and the kind of rent that made her old studio look like a cardboard box. The apartment itself was sterile. Modern furniture that looked expensive and felt impersonal. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River. A kitchen that had never been used for actual cooking. Mr. Park owns the building, the new driver explained. You'll be safe here. Nadia wanted to believe that. She unpacked her duffel in a bedroom larger than her entire Washington Heights apartment, then sat on the bed and tried to remember what normal felt like. The burner phone rang. Not Damien this time. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Hello? Nadia Kessler. Victor's voice was smooth, cultured, terrifying in its calmness. We haven't been formally introduced. I know who you are. Good. That saves time. She heard him smile. I wanted to congratulate you on evading my associates. Not many people manage that. What do you want? To make you an offer. A better offer than Damien's giving you. I'm not interested. You haven't heard it yet. Papers rustled in the background. I know about your debt. $247,316 in medical bills. Damien promised to clear it if you work for him for 3 months. I'll clear it today, right now, plus another $100,000 as a signing bonus. All you have to do is walk away. Nadia's breath caught. Walk away from what? From Damien, from his organization, from this war you didn't ask to be part of. Victor's tone remained pleasant, reasonable. You're a translator, Nadia, not a soldier. You don't belong in this world. Take my money, disappear, and live the life you were supposed to live before my old friend dragged you into his mess. And if I say no, then you become a casualty. Not because I want to hurt you. I don't. But because you're valuable to Damien. And the fastest way to break him is to take away the things he values. The threat hung in the air like smoke. You're going to kill me, Nadia said flatly. Only if you force me to. I'd much rather pay you. He paused. Think about it. Your mother died drowning in debt because American healthcare is predatory. You've spent 2 years being crushed by the weight of her death. I'm offering you freedom, real freedom, not the conditional servitude Damien's selling. He's not. Yes, he is. You work for him or you drown. That's not freedom. That's just a prettier cage. Victor's voice softened. I'm not your enemy, Nadia. I'm trying to save you from a man who's too broken to see he's destroying everything he touches. You killed his uncle. I removed a threat to the organization, something Damien should have done months ago but was too weak to execute. That's the difference between us. I do what needs to be done. He agonizes over morality while the empire burns. If you're so capable, why do you need me to walk away? Victor laughed. Because you're his weakness, and I prefer to win clean. So, do we have a deal? Nadia's hand tightened on the phone. $347,316. Today. Proof of payment before I agree to anything. Smart girl. Give me your banking information and I'll wire it within the hour. How do I know you won't just kill me after I give you what you want? You don't. But I give you my word that if you leave New York tonight and never contact Damien again, you'll live a long, happy life somewhere far from this city. His voice hardened slightly. Stay, and I'll make sure you regret it. Choose wisely. He hung up. Nadia sat in the expensive bedroom overlooking the Hudson, phone trembling in her hand. $347,000. Freedom from the debt that had choked her for 2 years. All she had to do was abandon the man who'd trusted her, who'd protected her, who'd looked at her like she was valuable instead of disposable. The man she was falling for despite every rational instinct screaming that it was suicide. She texted Damien. Victor just called. Made me an offer. The response took 3 minutes. What kind of offer? Money to walk away. A lot of money. Another pause. Then, are you going to take it? Nadia stared at the question for a long time. Honest answer. She didn't know. She typed, I need to see you in person, not safe. Victor's watching my movements. I don't care. If you want me to stay, you need to look me in the eye and tell me why. 10 minutes of silence. Then, rooftop garden at 345 West Broadway. Midnight. Come alone. Anna. The building was one of Damien's properties. Residential tower with luxury condos and amenities that included a private rooftop garden. Nadia arrived at 11:53, took the elevator to the top floor, and stepped out into a space that looked like someone had transplanted a Korean palace garden onto a Manhattan rooftop. Stone lanterns, cherry trees and massive planters, a small pond with koi fish, wooden benches arranged around carefully raked gravel paths. Damien stood at the edge, looking out at the city sprawled below like scattered diamonds. He turned when he heard her footsteps. You came, he said. You knew I would. He smiled slightly. I hoped. Nadia crossed the garden until she stood beside him. Up close she could see the exhaustion carved into his features, the tension in his shoulders, the weight of a war he was fighting on multiple fronts. Victor offered me $347,000 to disappear, she said. I know. I intercepted the call. Damien's voice was quiet. Are you going to take it? That depends on your answer to my next question. Ask. Nadia turned to face him fully. Why do I matter to you? The real reason. Not because I'm a good translator or because I'm useful. Tell me the truth. Damien was silent for a long moment, jaw working like he was chewing on words he didn't want to say. Finally, because when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to be human instead of a weapon. Because you look at me and see a person, not a position. Because you cursed at me in Korean and then refused to apologize. And I realized I'd been surrounded by fear for so long I'd forgotten what honesty sounded like. He stepped closer. Because I've built an empire on power and control. But the only time I feel powerful is when you choose to stay even though you're terrified. Because I trust you more than I've trusted anyone since my grandfather died. Because he stopped, swallowed hard. Because I'm falling for you, and it scares the hell out of me. Nadia's breath caught. That's the worst possible thing you could have said. I know. This can't work. You know that, right? You're a... She gestured helplessly. Crime lord. I'm a broke immigrant with student loan debt and a dead mother. We exist in completely different worlds. I know that too. Then why? Because I don't want to exist in my world anymore. If you're not in it. His voice was raw, honest in a way that felt like standing naked. Take Victor's money if you want. Walk away. Build a life that doesn't include violence and danger and safe houses. I won't stop you. I won't even blame you. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull back. When she didn't, his hand cupped her face. But if you stay, I swear to you, I will do everything in my power to give you the life you deserve. Not as my employee. Not as someone I'm protecting out of obligation. As someone He couldn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. Nadia saw it in his eyes. The terrifying vulnerability of a man who'd built walls so high, he'd forgotten what sunlight felt like, now tearing them down for someone who could destroy him completely. This is insane, she whispered. Completely. Victor will come after me harder if he knows I chose you. I'll handle Victor. You can't promise that. Watch me. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. Stay, Nadia, please. Not because of money or debt or contracts. Stay because you want to, because you feel this too. She did feel it. Had been feeling it since the night in his office when he'd looked at her and seen everything. Had been falling for him despite every rational thought screaming it was dangerous and stupid and would end in disaster. If I stay, she said slowly, I'm staying as myself. Not as someone you own or control or protect like property. I make my own choices, including the choice to walk away if this becomes something I can't survive. Deal. And you have to tell me the truth, always, no matter how ugly it is. I can do that. And Damien kissed her, gentle at first, like he was afraid she'd shatter, then deeper when she kissed him back, hands fisting in his shirt like an anchor in a storm. It tasted like desperation and relief, and the terrifying freedom of choosing something dangerous because it felt right. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Nadia rested her forehead against his. I'm still terrified of you, she whispered. Good. Don't stop. Fear keeps you sharp. But I'm more terrified of losing you. Damien's arms tightened around her. You won't. I promise you won't. It was a promise he couldn't keep. They both knew it. But in that moment, on a rooftop garden overlooking a city that didn't care about broken people trying to build something real, they chose to believe it anyway. Nadia woke in Damien's penthouse at 6 a.m. to her phone ringing. Not the burner, her regular phone. The one she wasn't supposed to be using. She grabbed it, saw Chen's number, and answered. We have a problem, Chen said without preamble. Victor knows where you are. Nadia sat up, heart already racing. How? Doesn't matter. Get dressed. We're moving you again. Now. She was pulling on clothes when she heard it. Footsteps in the hallway outside the bedroom. Too many footsteps. Damien was downstairs in his office. Had been there since 4 a.m., managing the war that never slept. These weren't his people. Nadia grabbed the gun from the nightstand, checked the magazine like Chen had taught her, and moved to the bedroom door. Locked it, backed toward the window. Someone tried the handle. Then a voice, muffled through the door. We know you're in there, Ms. Kessler. This doesn't have to be difficult. Not Chen, not Damien's people. Victor's. Nadia's mind raced. The window led to a 30-story drop. The door was solid, but wouldn't hold forever. Her phone was on the bed, but calling for help meant time she didn't have. Mr. Park is downstairs, the voice continued. Reasonable, almost kind. We're not here for him, just you. Come quietly, and nobody gets hurt. She didn't believe that for a second. The door shuddered, someone kicking it, testing the lock. Nadia aimed the gun with shaking hands, wondering if she could actually shoot another human being. The door splintered. A man stepped through. Korean, 30s, wearing tactical gear like this was a military operation. He saw the gun, smiled. You won't shoot. Try me. He lunged. Nadia squeezed the trigger. The gun kicked. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. The man stumbled but didn't go down. Body armor. He grabbed for the gun. Nadia fought like hell, kicking, scratching, using every dirty trick she'd learned growing up in Accra, where girls learned early that survival wasn't pretty. 2 more men entered the room. She didn't stand a chance. They wrestled the gun away, zip-tied her hands, dragged her toward the door. That's when she heard gunfire downstairs, shouting, Damien's voice cutting through chaos. "Where is she?" More gunfire. The men hauling Nadia toward the service elevator moved faster. She fought every step, screaming Damien's name until someone shoved a cloth in her mouth. They got her into the elevator, doors closing. The last thing she saw was Damien bursting into the hallway, covered in someone else's blood, eyes wild. Their gazes locked for one terrible second. Then the doors closed, and she was gone. They took her to a warehouse in the Bronx. Concrete floors, industrial lighting, the smell of rust and old violence. Victor was waiting. He sat in a metal chair like it was a throne, wearing an immaculate suit and an expression of polite interest. "Nadia," he said as they shoved her into a chair opposite him, "I'm disappointed. I made you a generous offer. You chose poorly." She spat out the gag. "Fuck you." He smiled. "There's that fire. I can see why Damien's fascinated. He's going to kill you for this. Maybe. But first he's going to watch you suffer. Because that's the only way to break a man like Damien Park. You don't attack his empire. You don't threaten his power. You take away the one thing he values more than either." Victor stood, walked to where she sat bound to the chair. "I'm going to send him proof that I have you. A video. Something visceral. Then I'm going to give him a choice. Abandon his pathetic crusade to legitimize the family business and restore my position, or I'll return you to him in pieces." Nadia's blood turned to ice. "He won't negotiate with you." "He will. For you, he will." Victor crouched down until they were eye level. That's his weakness. He cares. And caring in this business is a death sentence. He pulled out a phone, set it up on a tripod, started recording. "Any last words for your savior?" Nadia thought about begging, thought about crying, thought about giving Victor the satisfaction of breaking her. Instead, she looked directly into the camera and spoke in Korean, clear and deliberate. "Damien, whatever he does to me, don't give him what he wants. Finish this. Win. I chose to stay knowing the risks. Don't let my choice be for nothing." Victor's expression flickered. How noble. He gestured to his men. "Make sure he understands what happens to people who defy me. But keep her alive. She's only valuable breathing." The first blow caught her across the face, snapping her head sideways. The second drove the air from her lungs. Nadia stopped counting after 5, focusing instead on staying conscious, on breathing through the pain, on not giving them the screams they wanted. She thought about Damien, about the way he'd looked at her on the rooftop garden like she was the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life, about the promise she'd made to be there when the war was over. She held on to that as the world dissolved into pain and darkness, held on to it like an anchor, like hope, like the only thing worth surviving for. Damien watched the video 3 times before his hand stopped shaking enough to set the phone down. Nadia's face filled the screen. Split lip, bruising already darkening her left cheekbone, blood trickling from her nose. But her eyes were clear, defiant. Even zip-tied to a chair in a warehouse somewhere in his city, she looked at the camera like she was staring down death itself. Then she spoke in Korean, her voice steady, despite the tremor underneath. "Damien, whatever he does to me, don't give him what he wants. Finish this. Win. I chose to stay knowing the risks. Don't let my choice be for nothing." The video cut to Victor's face, calm, smiling. "You have 24 hours, Victor said. Restore my position, my territory, my authority. Publicly acknowledge that you were wrong to remove me. Transfer $50 million in operational funds as restitution. Do all of this, and I'll return your translator mostly intact." He leaned closer to the camera. "Refuse, and I'll send her back to you in pieces, starting with her fingers. 1 every hour until you comply. The choice is yours, old friend. Power or love, empire or girl. Choose wisely." The screen went black. Chen stood in the doorway of Damien's office, expressionless but radiating controlled fury. "We're tracking the video's metadata. Should have a location within the hour." "Won't matter." Damien's voice was ice. Victor's not stupid enough to keep her where he sent the video. He's already moved her. Then what do we do? Damien looked at his oldest lieutenant, saw the question underneath the question. Do we give Victor what he wants? Do we trade the empire for one woman? We find her, Damien said quietly, and then we burn Victor's world to ash. The location came through 47 minutes later, not from the video metadata, from someone Chen had paid $30,000 to betray Victor's confidence. A meat processing plant in Hunts Point, abandoned for 2 years but still connected to the power grid, perfect for the kind of work that required privacy and soundproofing. Damien assembled his response team in the basement of a Park Industries property in Chelsea. 15 men, all of them veterans of the family business, all of them loyal, all of them armed. Victor's expecting a frontal assault, Damien said, spreading a blueprint of the facility across the table. He'll have shooters on the roof, reinforced positions at every entrance, probably explosives rigged to the main doors. We go in loud. Nadia dies in the crossfire. So what's the play? Asked Marcus, a former Marine who'd been with the organization for 6 years. We give him what he's expecting, but not where he's expecting it. Damien traced a line on the blueprint. There's a drainage tunnel that runs underneath the facility. City maintenance access. It'll take us directly into the basement. Chen leads the main assault on the front entrance. Maximum noise, maximum chaos. While Victor's focused on that, I take a small team through the tunnel. That's a kill zone if they're waiting, Marcus said. They won't be. Victor thinks I'm too smart to risk a tunnel assault, which is exactly why we're doing it. Chen frowned. You're betting your life on a guess. I'm betting Nadia's life on knowing Victor better than he knows himself. Damien's voice was steel. He wants me to suffer. That means he'll keep her alive and visible, somewhere he can control the situation. Probably the main floor, ground level, easy access for cameras, for witnesses, for making sure I see exactly what he's doing to her. And if you're wrong, then I die trying to get her back. Damien met Chen's eyes. I need you to trust me on this. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. When do we move? 1 hour. Gives Victor time to get comfortable, to think he's won. Nadia woke to the sensation of cold water hitting her face. She gasped, choked, tried to move and realized her hands were still bound. Different chair now, metal, bolted to the floor. Her ribs screamed where they'd kicked her. Her right eye was swollen, nearly shut. Every breath felt like swallowing glass. Welcome back. Victor crouched in front of her, immaculate as ever, despite the warehouse setting. I was beginning to think my men had been too enthusiastic. You've been unconscious for 2 hours. Nadia spat blood at his feet. Fuck you. So articulate. He stood, pulling a phone from his pocket. I sent Damien a video of our time together. He hasn't responded yet. I'm disappointed. I expected immediate capitulation. You don't know him at all, do you? I know him better than anyone. We grew up together, built this empire together. I know exactly how he thinks. Then you know he's coming for you. Nadia's voice was raw but steady. And when he gets here, you're going to regret every second of this. Victor's smile faded. He's one man. I have 20 soldiers in this building and another 50 in reserve. Even Damien Park isn't foolish enough to assault a fortified position for one woman. He will for me. Such confidence. Tell me, Nadia, what makes you so special? You're a translator, a broke immigrant with student debt. What could you possibly offer a man like Damien that's worth risking his empire? Nadia met his eyes. I see him. The real him. Not the king or the crime lord or the heir to a legacy. Just the man underneath. And he sees me the same way. That's something you'll never understand because you only see people as assets or threats. For the first time, Victor's composure cracked, just slightly. A flicker of something that might have been pain or rage or the ghost of a friendship that died the moment he put ambition over loyalty. You think you know him because he fucked you a few times? Victor's voice turned vicious. You're a distraction, a liability he'll discard the moment you become inconvenient. I've known Damien for 23 years. You've known him for 6 weeks. Don't confuse infatuation with significance. Is that what you tell yourself? That he removed you because you were inconvenient? Nadia laughed despite the pain. He removed you because you betrayed his trust, because you killed without his authority and proved you value power more than loyalty. You did this to yourself. Victor backhanded her across the face. The impact snapped her head sideways, sent blood spraying across concrete. "You don't know what you're talking about," he snarled. "I've bled for this organization, killed for it, sacrificed everything." While Damien was at Harvard learning economics, I was in the streets keeping his grandfather's empire alive. I earned my position. I earned his respect. But the moment he decided to play reformer, I became disposable. "You became disposable when you stopped being trustworthy." Victor grabbed her throat, squeezed until black spots danced across her vision. "I should kill you right now," he whispered. "Send Damien your corpse as a message." "Do it!" Nadia choked the words out. "Prove you're exactly the monster he thinks you are." His hand tightened. Then he released her, stepping back. "No, you're worth more alive. For now." He wiped his hand on a handkerchief like touching her had contaminated him. "But every hour Damien delays, I remove one of your fingers, professional, surgical. You'll survive. But you'll remember exactly what choosing him cost you." He pulled out a knife. Folding blade, serrated edge. Nadia's heart hammered against her broken ribs. Victor grabbed her left hand, forced her fingers straight. "Let's start with the pinky. You won't miss it as much." The blade touched her skin. That's when the explosions started. The front entrance of the meat processing plant erupted in fire and smoke as Chen's team deployed breaching charges. Gunfire followed immediately. Controlled bursts from Damien's men, wild spray from Victor's as they scrambled to defensive positions. In the chaos, no one noticed the drainage grate on the north side of the building sliding open. Damien dropped into the tunnel first, followed by Marcus and two others. The smell hit them immediately. Decades of rot and industrial waste, thick enough to taste. They moved fast through waist-deep water, weapons held high, night vision turning the darkness green. The tunnel ended at a metal ladder. Damien climbed, slowly pushed open the access hatch, and emerged into the basement of the processing plant. Empty. Concrete and shadow and rusted machinery. He signaled the others up. Marcus appeared beside him. "Ground floor access?" Damien pointed to a service stairwell. "2 floors up. Stay tight." They moved like ghosts through the basement, cleared 2 storage rooms and a maintenance office before hitting the stairs. Above them, the firefight intensified. Chen was doing his job, making enough noise to pull every defender in the building toward the front. Damien took the stairs 2 at a time, Marcus covering his back. The stairwell door opened onto the main processing floor. That's where he found her. Nadia was zip-tied to a chair in the center of the massive space, blood on her face and terror in her eyes as Victor stood over her with a knife. 12 armed men surrounded them in a defensive perimeter. Damien didn't think, just raised his weapon and fired. The first shot took the nearest guard in the throat. The second hit another in the chest before anyone could react. Then chaos. Victor's men returned to fire as Damien and his team scattered for cover behind industrial equipment. Bullets sparked off metal, shattered old machinery, filled the air with the smell of cordite and blood. Marcus took out 3 men with precise headshots. The 4th caught him in the shoulder, sent him sprawling. Damien kept firing, moving between cover points with the muscle memory of someone who'd learned violence before he learned calculus. He hit 2 more guards, dropped to reload behind a defunct conveyor belt, came up shooting. Victor had dragged Nadia's chair back toward a side exit, using her as a human shield. "Stand down or she dies," Victor screamed over the gunfire. Damien killed the last guard between them, stepped out from cover with his weapon trained on Victor's head. "Let her go." "You'll shoot me the moment I do." "I'll shoot you anyway. This way you die fast." They stared at each other across 20 feet of blood-spattered concrete. 2 men who'd once been brothers, now separated by corpses and choices, and the woman caught between them. "You destroyed everything," Victor said. His voice shook. "We built this together. We were supposed to rule together. Then you decided to grow a conscience and threw me away like garbage. I gave you every chance to change with me. You chose violence. Because violence is all this world understands." Victor's hand tightened in Nadia's hair, forcing her head back, exposing her throat. "You think legitimacy will protect you? You think playing by rules written by people who hate us will keep you safe? You're a fool." "Maybe, but I'd rather be a fool with a conscience than a king covered in innocent blood." "Innocent?" Victor laughed bitterly. There's no such thing. Everyone in this business has blood on their hands. Even her. He pressed the knife against Nadia's throat. She translated communications that led to deaths, analyzed intelligence that resulted in violence. She's as complicit as the rest of us. Let her go. Make me. Damien's finger tightened on the trigger, but Victor was right. The angle was wrong. Any shot that hit Victor would likely hit Nadia too, and Victor knew it. They were at a stalemate. That's when Nadia moved. She slammed her head backward into Victor's face with every ounce of strength she had left. Cartilage crunched. Victor stumbled back, knife hand jerking away from her throat. Damien fired twice. Both rounds hit Victor's center mass. He went down hard, blood spreading across his pristine white shirt like a crimson flower blooming in fast motion. Damien crossed the space in seconds, kicked the knife away, checked Victor's pulse. Weak. Fading. Victor looked up at him, blood on his teeth, eyes already glazing. You chose wrong, he whispered. This life will destroy you both. Maybe, but it'll be my choice, Victor laughed. Wet, broken. Tell me something, brother. Was she worth it? Was one woman worth burning 20 years of friendship? Damien glanced at Nadia, still bound to the chair but alive, breathing, staring at him with eyes that held pain and relief, and something that looked like love. Yes, he said simply. She was. Victor's expression shifted through emotions too complex to name. Then his eyes went distant, fixed on something neither of them could see. Your grandfather would have killed her without hesitation, Victor said. That's why you'll never be what he was. His breath rattled, stopped. Damien stood over the body of his oldest friend and felt nothing. No grief, no satisfaction. Just the cold certainty that this was always how it was going to end. He turned to Nadia. She was crying, silent tears cutting tracks through the blood on her face. You came, she said. Always. He cut through the zip ties with Victor's knife, caught her as she collapsed forward. I've got you. You're safe now. Am I? She looked up at him, broken and bleeding and so goddamn brave it hurt to see. Victor was right about one thing. This life will destroy us. Then we'll destroy it first. Damien cupped her face gently, mindful of the bruises. I meant what I said on the rooftop. I'm tearing it all down. The violence, the fear, all of it. Building something new, something clean. You can't just walk away from an empire. Watch me. Marcus appeared at Damien's elbow, bleeding but mobile. Chen secured the perimeter. NYPD will be here in 5 minutes. We need to move. Damien lifted Nadia in his arms. She didn't protest, just wrapped her arms around his neck and buried her face in his shoulder. They exited through the drainage tunnel, waded through filth and darkness back to the surface. Chen was waiting with 3 vehicles. Casualties? Damien asked. 4 wounded, 2 serious. Everyone's mobile. Chen's eyes flicked to Nadia. She needs a hospital. No hospitals. Too many questions. Damien settled Nadia into the back seat of the Mercedes. Take us to the Tribeca property. I'll have a doctor meet us there. Chen nodded and got behind the wheel. As they pulled away from the meat processing plant, sirens wailing in the distance, Nadia stirred in Damien's arms. Did you kill him? She asked quietly. Yes. Good. She closed her eyes. I know I should feel bad about that, but I don't. Is that wrong? No. It means you're human. Damien pressed his lips to her forehead. He would have killed you without hesitation. You don't owe him mercy. I keep thinking about what he said, about me being complicit, about the blood on my hands from the work I did for you. Is he right? Nadia was quiet for a long time. Maybe, but I chose it. Chose you, even knowing what it meant. She looked up at him. Does that make me a monster? It makes you someone who survived. Damien's voice was rough with emotion he'd been holding back for hours. You did what you had to do to stay alive. There's no shame in that. And now what? Now we go home, get you medical attention. Then we figure out what comes next. Victor had 50 men in reserve. They're not going to just disappear because he's dead. Let me worry about that. Damien, I said let me worry about it. His arms tightened around her. You almost died today. You're allowed to stop being strong for 5 goddamn minutes. Something in Nadia broke at that. She started sobbing, deep, wrenching sounds that came from somewhere primal. All the fear she'd been holding back, all the pain, all the terror of the last 6 hours finally finding release. Damien held her through it, whispering things in Korean that might have been comfort or promises or prayers to gods neither of them believed in. By the time they reached Tribeca, Nadia had cried herself into exhausted silence. The doctor, a Korean woman in her 50s who asked no questions and accepted cash payment without blinking, examined her in the master bedroom while Damien paced the hallway like a caged animal. Chen found him there an hour later. The doctor says no permanent damage, 3 cracked ribs, severe bruising, minor concussion. She'll heal. And Victor's network? In chaos. Without leadership, they're fragmenting. Some are trying to claim authority. Most are just trying to survive. We've received feelers from 6 different factions asking for terms. Give them 48 hours to decide. They submit to Park Industries Authority and follow new rules. No human trafficking, no violence against civilians, no operations that harm the community. They do legitimate business or they find a new city. Chen raised an eyebrow. You're actually doing it, cleaning house. I told Nadia I would. I keep my promises. And the ones who refuse, make an example. Damien's voice was flat. One example. Brutal enough that the others understand I'm not negotiating. After that, anyone who still refuses gets run out of New York entirely. That's going to create power vacuums. Then we fill them with people who understand the new rules. Damien looked at his lieutenant. I'm done being my grandfather's heir. Time to be something else. What's that? I don't know yet, but I'm going to figure it out. The doctor emerged from the bedroom. She's resting. I've given her something for the pain. She should sleep for several hours. Can I see her? Briefly. She needs rest more than anything. Damien entered the bedroom quietly. Nadia lay in the massive bed, dwarfed by white sheets and pillows. Someone had cleaned the blood from her face. The bruises looked worse now, purple and black spreading across pale skin like spilled ink. But she was breathing, alive. He sat on the edge of the bed, careful not to jostle her, her eyes opened, unfocused but aware. Hey, she whispered. Hey yourself. Did I miss anything? Just the collapse of a criminal empire and the beginning of a revolution. She smiled slightly. Sounds like Tuesday. How are you feeling? Like I got the shit kicked out of me by professionals. Her hand found his, but alive. Thanks to you. You saved yourself. The headbutt was pure instinct. Learned that in Ghana. Someone grabs you from behind, you make them regret it. Remind me never to grab you from behind. I'll make an exception for you. Her eyes were already closing again, the pain medication pulling her under. Damien? Yeah? Victor was wrong. You're not weak because you care. You're stronger than anyone I've ever met. His throat tightened. Go to sleep, Nadia. Stay with me? Always. He stretched out beside her on top of the covers, fully clothed and still wearing his shoulder holster. She curled into him despite the pain it must have caused, her head on his chest. Within minutes, she was asleep. Damien lay awake listening to her breathe, feeling the steady rhythm of her heartbeat against his ribs, and made a decision. Victor's network would be dismantled. The violent foundations of his grandfather's empire would be torn out root and branch. He would build something new, something that didn't require fear to function. And he would do it with Nadia beside him, not as his translator, not as his employee, as his partner, his equal. The woman who'd looked at a monster and seen a man worth saving. Outside the window, Manhattan glittered with a million stories of people trying to survive another day in a city that didn't care about any of them. But inside this room, 2 broken people held on to each other like anchors in a storm and chose to believe that maybe, possibly, they could build something better from the ashes of everything that had tried to destroy them. It wasn't redemption. Not yet. But it was a start. 72 hours later, Nadia woke to find Damien gone. A note on his pillow. Finishing this. Be back tonight. Chen's outside. Don't leave the building. D. She showered carefully, avoiding the worst of the bruises, and dressed in clothes someone had bought for her. Simple jeans and a soft sweater that didn't press against her cracked ribs. Chen was in the kitchen making coffee when she emerged. Where is he? She asked. Cleaning house? Literally. Chen poured her a cup. 3 of Victor's former lieutenants refused terms. Mr. Park is making them regret that decision. Meaning? Meaning, by tonight, Park Industries will control 90% of Victor's former territory, and the remaining 10% will be running scared. Nadia sat at the kitchen island, wincing as her ribs protested. And after that? After that, Mr. Park starts the real work, legitimizing operations, converting properties, building the empire he actually wants instead of the one he inherited. Sounds impossible. Probably is, but if anyone can do it, it's him. Chen studied her over the rim of his coffee cup. He's different with you, you know. Softer, more human. Is that good or bad? Good, or depends on who you ask. The old guard thinks it's weakness. I think it's the only thing keeping him from becoming exactly what his grandfather was. What was his grandfather? A monster who built an empire on fear and died alone because everyone was too afraid to love him. Chen set down his cup. Mr. Park doesn't want that life, but he doesn't know how to build a different one. You showed him it was possible. I didn't do anything. You stayed. That was enough. Before Nadia could respond, her phone rang. Not the burner. Her regular phone, which she'd thought was dead. Unknown number. She answered anyway. Nadia Kessler? A woman's voice. Professional. American accent. Yes? This is Dr. Sarah Chen from Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. We have you listed as the emergency contact for patient Li Mi-sun. She was brought in this morning with severe sepsis related to an infected surgical site. She's asking for you. Nadia's blood went cold. I think you have the wrong person. I don't know anyone named Li Mi-sun. The patient says she's your cousin. From Ghana. She has your phone number listed as family contact. Nadia's mind raced. She didn't have a cousin named Li Mi-sun. Didn't have any Korean relatives. This was a trap. Had to be. I'll be there as soon as I can, she said carefully. She hung up. Chen was already on his feet. What's wrong? Someone's trying to lure me out of the building. Hospital called about a cousin I don't have. Victor's people. Has to be. They know you're vulnerable, that you'd respond to a medical emergency. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling Mr. Park. No. Nadia stopped him. He's dealing with the lieutenants. He can't be distracted. Your safety is more important than... It's bait, Chen. They want me to run to him scared so they can ambush both of us. We play this smart instead. Chen looked at her with new respect. What do you want to do? We go to the hospital, but we go smart, armed, prepared, and we end this tonight. Mr. Park will kill me if I let you walk into danger. Then he can kill both of us, because I'm done hiding. Nadia met his eyes. Victor's network is fragmenting, but someone out there still wants me dead. Either we deal with it now, or we spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders. Your choice. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled grimly. Get your coat, and grab the gun from the bedroom safe. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. They left for Columbia Presbyterian 30 minutes later, armed and ready for whatever came next. Neither of them saw the black SUV that followed 3 cars behind, or the sniper on the rooftop across the street, reporting their movement to someone who'd been waiting for exactly this mistake. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. Columbia Presbyterian loomed against the gray November sky like a monument to suffering. Nadia sat in the passenger seat of Chen's SUV, watching ambulances discharge their cargo of broken humanity through emergency bay doors that never stopped opening. Last chance to call this off, Chen said quietly. No. Nadia checked the Glock's magazine for the 3rd time. Muscle memory now. Fear made routine. We end this tonight. Chen nodded and pulled into the parking structure. They took a spot on the 3rd level with clear sightlines to the elevator and stairwell. He killed the engine but left the keys in the ignition. Rules of engagement, he said. You stay behind me. You don't fire unless I'm down or you have a clean shot. You see anything that looks wrong, you run. Don't be a hero. What about you? I'm paid to be a hero. You're just trying to survive. He opened his door. Ready? Nadia's ribs ached. Her face still looked like a Jackson Pollock painting. Every instinct screamed this was a trap. She got out of the car anyway. They moved through the parking structure like soldiers in enemy territory. Backs to walls, weapons concealed but accessible, eyes scanning every shadow. The elevator was empty. The hallway leading to the main hospital entrance held only an elderly couple arguing about parking validation. Normal. Too normal. At the information desk, Nadia asked about Lee Mi-sun. The receptionist typed on her keyboard, frowned. I don't show any patient by that name. Emergency admission this morning. Severe sepsis. More typing. Are you sure you have the right hospital? Nadia's pulse quickened. I received a call from Dr. Sarah Chen. We don't have a Dr. Sarah Chen on staff. Chen's hand moved to his concealed weapon. That's when Nadia's phone rang. Unknown number. Again. She answered. You came. A man's voice. Not Victor. Someone else. Good. That makes this easier. Who is this? Someone who lost everything when you helped Damien Park destroy Victor's network. My brother died in that meat processing plant. He was all I had. Nadia's blood turned to ice. I'm sorry. No, you're not. But you will be. The voice remained eerily calm. Look at the north entrance, the one facing Fort Washington Avenue. Nadia turned. Through the glass doors, she could see a black van parked at the curb, back doors open. Inside, barely visible in the shadows, her breath stopped. A woman, bound, gagged. The resemblance was unmistakable even from this distance. Her cousin Akasua, from Accra, the one who'd helped pay for Mom's funeral. How did you... Wasn't hard. You call her every Sunday. Very predictable. She arrived in New York yesterday for what she thought was a job interview. Been my guest ever since. Chen was already moving toward the exit, but the voice stopped them. One more step and I put a bullet in her head. You can watch through the glass. Very cinematic. Nadia grabbed Chen's arm. Don't. Smart girl. The man sounded pleased. Here's how this works. You walk out that door alone. Get in the van. Come quietly. Your cousin goes free. Simple trade. And then you kill me. Eventually. But first, you're going to call Damien Park and tell him exactly where to find you. Then we see how much you're really worth to the man who destroyed my family. Nadia looked at Chen, saw the calculation in his eyes, the tactical assessment that said this was unwinnable, that the moment she stepped into that van, she was dead regardless of what promises were made. I need to think. You have 30 seconds. After that, I start cutting pieces off your cousin and throwing them out the door. Fingers first. Then we get creative. 29 seconds. Nadia's mind raced through options. Chen could shoot through the van windows, but that risked hitting Akoshua. They could call the police, but that meant questions neither of them could answer and time they didn't have. They could call Damien, but he was across the city dismantling the last of Victor's network. 20 seconds. She thought about her mother, about the debt that had brought her into Damien's world, about every choice that had led to this moment where someone innocent was about to die because Nadia had dared to matter to a dangerous man. 15 seconds. She looked at Chen. Tell Damien I'm sorry. For all of this. Don't. But Nadia was already moving toward the exit, hands raised, gun tucked into the back of her waistband where the van driver couldn't see it. Chen's voice followed her in. Nadia, wait. She pushed through the glass doors into cold November air that tasted like exhaust and regret. The van's side door slid open. A man emerged. Korean, 30s, hard eyes and harder hands. He grabbed Nadia roughly, patted her down, found the Glock. Stupid girl, he muttered, tossing it into the gutter. Then he shoved her into the van. Akasua was there, tears streaming down her face, trying to scream through duct tape. Nadia had 2 seconds to register her cousin's terror before someone slammed her head against the van's metal frame. Stars exploded across her vision. The door slid shut. The van pulled away from the curb, and Nadia realized she'd just made the last mistake of her life. Damien got Chen's call while standing over the body of Victor's last lieutenant. The man had refused terms, had tried to rebuild Victor's network under new management, had threatened to expose Park Industries' operations to federal investigators unless Damien paid tribute. So Damien had paid him a visit instead. Now the man lay in a warehouse in Red Hook with a bullet in his brain and a lesson written in blood for anyone else stupid enough to challenge the new order. She did what? Damien's voice was ice. Chen's words tumbled out rapid fire. Trap at the hospital. They have her cousin from Ghana. Nadia traded herself. I tried to stop her, but she moved before I could. Where are they taking her? I don't know. They took her phone. I'm tracking the van, but they're moving fast, probably switching vehicles. Find her. The words came out like shattered glass. I don't care what it costs. Find her now. He hung up and turned to Marcus, who stood guard at the warehouse entrance. Get everyone. Every soldier, every asset, every person who owes me a favor. Someone just took Nadia, and I want this city torn apart until we find her. Marcus was already on his phone. Damien walked out into the night, rage and fear warring in his chest like competing storms. He'd promised to keep her safe, and he'd failed. Again. Nadia woke to the smell of mildew and old violence. She was in a basement somewhere. Concrete walls. Single bare bulb hanging from exposed wiring. Her hands were zip-tied to a chair that was bolted to the floor. Again. Always the chairs. Akoshwa sat across from her, similarly bound, eyes wide with terror. I'm sorry, Nadia whispered in Twi. I'm so sorry they brought you into this. Akoshwa shook her head frantically, trying to speak through the gag. Footsteps on the stairs. 3 men descended. The one in front matched the voice from the phone call. Korean, late 20s, with eyes that had seen too much death and decided to embrace it. You're awake. Good. He pulled up a chair and sat backward on it, arms crossed over the back. I'm David Choi. Victor was my older brother. Nadia said nothing. He raised me after our parents died, taught me everything. How to fight. How to survive in a world that didn't want us. How to build something from nothing. David's voice remained calm, conversational. Then Damien Park decided my brother was expendable. Shot him twice in the chest and left him to bleed out on a warehouse floor. Your brother tried to kill me first. My brother was trying to save an empire from a man too weak to run it properly. There's the difference. David leaned forward. But I'm not interested in relitigating family history. I just want Damien to understand what it feels like to lose someone who matters. So you kill me and my cousin, just you. The cousin goes free once Damien arrives. She's leverage, not the target. His smile was empty. You, though. You're the whole point. The woman he burned his legacy for. The translator who made him believe he could be something other than what he is. I'm going to take you from him the same way he took my brother from me. He'll destroy you for this. Probably. But he'll be too late. And he'll have to live with that failure for the rest of his life. That's worth dying for. David stood, pulled out a phone, and dialed. It's done. We have her. Location is texting now? Yes, both of them. Understood. He hung up. Nadia's heart sank. You're not working alone. Did you think I was? Victor had an entire network. My brother's death scattered us, but some of us are still loyal to his memory, and we all want the same thing. David checked his watch. Damien will be here in approximately 40 minutes. Traffic's bad this time of night. That gives us time to prepare a proper welcome. He nodded to his associates. They disappeared upstairs, leaving Nadia and Akoshwa alone in the basement with David standing guard. Nadia tested the zip ties. Too tight. Too professional. She looked at her cousin, saw the question in her eyes. Who are these people? What have you gotten us into? Nadia couldn't explain it, even if the gag were removed. Couldn't make Akoshwa understand how a coffee shop worker ended up in a basement waiting to be used as bait for a man who ran an empire built on fear. So she just said in Twi, I love you. I'm sorry. And if we survive this, I'll explain everything. Akasua's eyes filled with fresh tears. Above them, footsteps moved back and forth. Preparing. Setting traps. Arranging the pieces for a massacre. Nadia closed her eyes and thought about Damien. About the way he'd looked at her on the rooftop garden, the way he'd held her after Victor's beating, the way he'd kissed her like she was the answer to every question he'd been too afraid to ask. If she died tonight, at least she'd die knowing what it felt like to be seen completely and loved anyway. That was more than most people got. The basement door opened, footsteps descended, but these were different, heavier, more deliberate. Damien appeared at the bottom of the stairs like vengeance wearing a suit. David raised his weapon. That was fast, David said. I didn't expect you for another 20 minutes. Traffic was better than anticipated. Damien's voice was perfectly calm. Dead calm. The kind of calm that came right before violence. Let them go. Or what? You'll shoot me. Look around. My men have this building locked down. You came alone, which was stupid. The moment you fire that weapon, they'll open fire on you from 3 different positions. I didn't come alone. I don't see... The lights went out. Gunfire erupted upstairs, controlled bursts that spoke of professionals working in coordination. Muzzle flash illuminated the basement in strobing nightmare light. Damien moved. David fired 3 times, but Damien was already diving left, returning fire, advancing through the darkness with the certainty of someone who'd done this too many times to count. David went down with a scream. Damien kept moving, found Nadia's chair, cut through her zip ties with a knife he pulled from somewhere. Can you walk? Yes. Get your cousin. Stay behind me. Nadia freed Akoshua while Damien positioned himself between them and the stairs. Above, the firefight had gone quiet. Either Damien's people had won or they were all dead. Chen's voice called down, "Clear!" Damien ushered them upstairs. The main floor looked like a war zone. 4 bodies, bullet holes in the walls, the smell of cordite and copper thick enough to taste. Marcus was applying a tourniquet to his own leg, blood everywhere but his hand steady. Chen appeared from the back room. 2 more in the kitchen, no survivors. Good. Damien turned to Nadia and Akoshua. You're both going to a secure location. Chen will take you. Stay there until I say it's safe. What about you? Nadia asked. I'm finishing this. For real this time. No more remnants. No more revenge plots. I'm going to dismantle what's left of Victor's network so thoroughly that no one will even remember his name. Damien, this is my fault. I should have ended it completely instead of leaving pieces scattered. His jaw tightened. I won't make that mistake again. He kissed her forehead, gentle, despite the violence still radiating from him like heat. Then he was gone. Chen drove Nadia and Akoshua to a Park Industries property in Westchester, suburban and anonymous. The kind of place where crime lords hid their families when wars got too hot. Akoshua finally spoke once they were inside, her voice shaking. Who are you? Who are these people? What the hell is happening? Nadia sat her cousin down and explained everything. The debt, the job offer, Damien, Victor, the empire built on fear and the man trying to transform it into something different. When she finished, Akoshua stared at her like she was a stranger. You're in love with a gangster. He's more than that. He runs a criminal organization. You just said so. You translate communications for illegal operations. People die because of the work you do. Akoshua's voice rose. Mom would be ashamed. The words hit like a physical blow. I know, Nadia whispered. I know what this looks like. But I'm trying to help him change it, to build something better. By being his accomplice? By being the person who believes he can be more than what his grandfather made him. That's not love. That's delusion. Maybe, but it's my choice. Akoshua stood up. I want to go home, to Accra, tonight. I want nothing to do with this insanity. I'll arrange it. Nadia's voice was hollow. And I'm sorry. For all of it. Her cousin left the room without another word. Nadia sat alone in the safe house and wondered if Akoshua was right. If loving Damien Park was just another form of self-destruction dressed up as romance. If she'd traded one kind of debt for another and called it freedom. Damien returned 48 hours later. Nadia was sitting on the porch when his car pulled up the driveway. He looked exhausted. Shadows under his eyes, 2 days of stubble, blood on his shirt cuff that probably wasn't his. He sat down beside her without speaking. They watched the sun set over suburban rooftops for a long time. Finally, it's done. Victor's entire network is gone, dismantled, absorbed, destroyed. No one's coming for you ever again. How many died? Enough. His voice was flat. Most surrendered once they realized I was serious. The ones who didn't, he trailed off. They made their choice. And now what? Now I keep my promise, transform the empire, legitimize operations, build something that doesn't require violence to function. He looked at her. If you still want to be part of it. Nadia thought about Akoshua's words, about the blood on Damien's hands and the work she'd done that contributed to it. My cousin thinks I'm delusional, she said quietly, that loving you is just self-destruction with better marketing. Is she wrong? I don't know, maybe. Nadia met his eyes. But I know I don't want to walk away, even though I probably should, even though the smart thing would be to take your money and disappear. Why don't you? Because you make me feel alive. Because you see me completely and don't look away. Because I think if anyone can actually change an empire built on fear into something good, it's you. She paused. And because I'm in love with you despite every rational instinct telling me it's suicide. Damien exhaled slowly. I can't promise you safety. This life, even the legitimate version, will always have risks. I know. I can't promise you normal. We'll never be the couple that goes to suburban barbecues and complains about lawn care. I don't want normal. Normal crushed me with medical debt and made me invisible. You made me matter. I can promise you honesty and loyalty, and that I will spend every day trying to be worthy of the faith you have in me. His hand found hers. Is that enough? Nadia thought about it, really thought about it. She could walk away. Take the debt forgiveness, the money, start over somewhere Victor's ghost couldn't reach. Or she could stay and help build something extraordinary from the ashes of something terrible. It's enough, she said finally, but I have conditions. Name them. First, I go back to school, finish my degree, build a life outside of your empire. Done. Second, you tell me everything. No secrets, no protecting me from ugly truths. I'm in this with you, or I'm not in it at all. Agreed. Third, the first time you cross a line I can't forgive, I walk away. No guilt, no obligations. Clean break. Damien was quiet for a moment. Then, that's fair, but I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that day never comes. Good. Nadia leaned her head on his shoulder. Because I really don't want to have to leave you. They sat in the fading light, two broken people choosing to believe they could build something whole from their shattered pieces. It wasn't redemption. Not yet. But it was the start of something real. 6 months later, Nadia walked across the stage at Columbia to receive her linguistics degree. Her ribs had healed. The bruises had faded. The nightmares came less frequently now. Damien sat in the audience wearing a suit and a rare smile, watching her accept the diploma she'd fought so hard to earn. Afterward, they went to dinner at a small Korean restaurant in Murray Hill. Nothing fancy, just good food and quiet conversation. I have something for you, Damien said as they walked back to his car. He handed her a folder. Inside, property deed for a building in Koreatown. 3 floors. Recently renovated. What is this? Your building. For the language center you mentioned wanting to start. Teaching Korean, Twai, Mandarin to immigrant communities. Something that actually helps people instead of exploiting them. He watched her face. If you want it. Nadia's throat tightened. This is too much. It's not nearly enough, but it's a start. His hand cupped her face. You helped me build a better empire. Let me help you build your dream. She kissed him there on the street corner, not caring who saw. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Damien pulled a small box from his jacket pocket. Nadia's heart stopped. I'm not proposing, he said quickly. Not yet. You deserve better than a parking lot proposal after everything we've been through. Then what? He opened the box. Inside sat a delicate gold ring with a small diamond. Simple, elegant, nothing like the massive rocks she'd seen on the fingers of other women in Damien's world. It's a promise, he said quietly, that I will spend every day trying to be the man you believe I can be. That I will never stop fighting to give you the life you deserve. That you matter more to me than power or money or the empire I inherited. He slipped it onto her right hand. Not the left. Not yet. When I'm worthy of asking the real question, I will. But until then, this is my promise that I'm working toward it. Nadia looked at the ring catching streetlight, then at the man who'd saved her life by giving her a reason to live it. You're already worthy, she whispered. You just don't know it yet. Then I guess we're both works in progress. Good. Perfect is boring anyway. They drove back to the Tribeca penthouse that had become their shared home. Nadia fell asleep on the couch, with her head in Damien's lap while he worked on plans for converting another warehouse into affordable immigrant housing. Outside the windows, New York glittered with possibility. The debt that had brought them together was gone. The violence that had tested them was over. The empire was transforming slowly into something that didn't require fear to function. They had built something real from the ashes of everything that tried to destroy them. It wasn't perfect. There were still hard days, still moments when Nadia wondered if she'd made the right choice. Still nights when Damien woke from nightmares about Victor or his grandfather or the blood on his hands. But they faced it together. Two broken people who'd found each other in the darkest corners of a city that didn't care about either of them and decided that was enough. More than enough. 1 year after the warehouse. Nadia stood in the third-floor classroom of her language center, watching students practice Korean pronunciation with the earnest concentration of people trying to build better lives in a country that made it harder than it should be. Damien appeared in the doorway. He did that sometimes, showed up unannounced just to watch her work, like he still couldn't quite believe she was real. She dismissed the class and walked over to him. "What are you doing here? Thought you might want lunch." He held up a bag from their favorite Korean deli. "Also, I have news. Good or bad?" "Good. The city approved our proposal for the community center in Flushing. Construction starts next month." Nadia threw her arms around him. "That's amazing." He held her close, breathing in the scent of her shampoo like it was oxygen. "We did it," he said quietly. "Built something good from all the bad. We're still building. This is just the beginning." "I know, but it's a good beginning." They ate lunch on the rooftop of the building, looking out at Koreatown spreading below them like a neighborhood they'd helped protect by transforming the empire that once preyed on it. After a while, Damien pulled another small box from his pocket. Different box. Different ring. This time, he got down on one knee. "Nadia Kessler, you cursed me in Korean the night we met. You called me an arrogant bastard, and then looked me in the eye and said it again when I asked. You saved my life by reminding me I could choose what kind of man I wanted to be. You stayed when anyone with sense would have run. You loved me before I knew I was worth loving." His voice cracked slightly. "You are the bravest, strongest, most stubborn woman I've ever met, and I have spent every day since that warehouse trying to become worthy of you. I don't know if I'm there yet, but I'm asking anyway." He opened the box. A ring. Platinum band with a single perfect diamond that caught the sunlight and threw rainbows across the rooftop. "Will you marry me? Not because I saved you from debt or danger. Not because you feel obligated, but because you actually want to build a life with an arrogant bastard who's trying very hard not to be the monster his grandfather raised." Nadia was crying. She'd told herself she wouldn't cry when this moment came, had planned to be cool and collected and say something profound. Instead, she just dropped to her knees in front of him and kissed him hard enough to bruise. When they finally broke apart, she was laughing through tears. "Yes, you arrogant bastard. Yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger, left hand this time, and pulled her into his arms. They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other on a rooftop in Koreatown while the city moved on below, indifferent to their small victory against all the forces that had tried to destroy them. The wedding was small, just close friends, and the family they'd built from the empire's transformation. Chen stood as Damien's best man. Akasua flew in from Accra and stood beside Nadia despite her reservations, because family was family even when they made choices you didn't understand. They exchanged vows in Korean and English and Twi, 3 languages representing the worlds they came from and the world they were building together. When the officiant pronounced them married, Damien kissed his wife like she was the only real thing in a city of beautiful lies. The reception was held at the community center they'd built in Flushing, the one that provided language classes and job training and safe housing for immigrants trying to survive in America. People danced, children ran between tables. Someone's grandmother taught Damien how to dance to high-life music while Nadia laughed so hard she cried. Late in the evening, they slipped away to the rooftop. New York spread out below them, millions of lights representing millions of stories of survival and struggle and small triumphs that added up to something extraordinary. "Do you ever regret it?" Nadia asked quietly. "Tearing down your grandfather's empire to build something new? Every time I look at the balance sheets, we make a fraction of what the old operations generated." Damien pulled her closer. "But then I look at what we've actually built, the housing, the language centers, the legitimate businesses providing actual jobs instead of fear, and I realize we're richer now than we ever were before. just in different currency. What currency is that? Being able to sleep at night, knowing the work we do actually helps people, looking at my reflection and not seeing a monster. He kissed her temple. Loving someone who actually knows who I am and chose me anyway. I'll always choose you, Nadia said, even when you're being an arrogant bastard. Especially then. They stood together in the darkness, husband and wife, two people who'd found each other in the wreckage of an empire built on fear and rebuilt it into something that actually mattered. It wasn't the ending either of them had expected, but it was the ending they'd earned, and that made it perfect. Years later, when people asked how they met, Nadia and Damien would smile and give the sanitized version. They'd met through work, fallen in love, built a life together focused on community development and immigrant support. They never mentioned the debt, the violence, the warehouse, the blood. Some stories were too complicated for casual conversation. But late at night, when it was just the two of them in the penthouse overlooking the city they'd helped transform, they would remember. Remember the fear, the danger, the impossible choices. Remember the moment when a broke translator cursed out a crime lord in Korean, and somehow that became the foundation of something extraordinary. Remember that love wasn't always clean or safe or simple. Sometimes it was terrifying and messy and required you to become someone braver than you thought you could be. But it was worth it. Every second, every sacrifice, every choice that led them to this moment, this life, this partnership that had transformed both of them into better versions of themselves. Nadia Kessler Park, translator, educator, wife, would look at her husband and see the man who'd given her freedom by believing she was worth saving. Damien Seo Park, reformed heir, community builder, husband, would look at his wife and see the woman who'd saved him by refusing to let him be less than he could be. And together, they'd built something neither of them could have created alone. An empire of hope in a city that tried to crush hope every day. A legacy of healing in a family built on violence. A love story that started with a curse and ended with a promise. That sometimes the most dangerous thing you could do was choose to be seen completely by another person. And sometimes, if you were very lucky and very brave, that danger became the safest place you'd ever known. The city lights glittered below them like scattered stars. And two people who'd survived hell together stood in the darkness and held on to each other and the life they'd built from ashes. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And real was better than perfect any day.